Let's bring home Jamie Oleksiak. I would love to have Jamie Oleksiak on the Leafs, and I think he's the type of defenseman that we need. Look at him. Let's just look at him for a few seconds here. He looks like his neck looks bigger than Nick Robertson's entire torso. Can we just agree with that? Like, this man's head is Nick Robertson. And I love Nick Robertson, let's be honest here. But this man is huge. For those who don't know, Jamie Oleksiak, 6'7", 255. He is a Toronto boy. He is Penny Oleksiak's older brother, so the crazy Olympic Canadian swimmer who's won all kinds of medals. Jamie Oleksiak's the brother. So he's 6'7", 255. He's just enormous. And he's from Toronto. Problem with him. Well, few notable things. So he is signed for $4.6 million this year and then the following 2 years. He has a full no trade clause right now, and then next year it kicks into a 16-team no trade list. If Seattle keeps on the path that they are right now, let's pop open Seattle right now. So Seattle has 21 points in 23 games. They're outside of the wild card right now. It's still tight because the West doesn't have a ton of amazing teams. A lot of the teams in the East are really strong, and the West is definitely missing out on a little bit of depth in terms of their teams. But 21-23, that's under 80 points. It's like a 78-point season. I don't know. I would have to do the math, but it's not good enough to make the playoffs. However, and they're a minus 17. This is a stat, especially like early in the year, that I look at, goal differential. And I find that usually if a team has like a good goal differential, you're looking at Arizona. I'm looking at Arizona possibly making the playoffs. I called that before the season started. But if you look at the East, there's a few teams. I think Pittsburgh has a really good goal differential, even though they're struggling. Ottawa has a positive one. So I'm expecting them to move up the standings a little bit. That's one that obviously doesn't always necessarily mean it's going to happen, but it is one. I think LA was a good example last year, if I remember correctly. Like all year they weren't doing too great, but their goal differential was pretty good, and then they ended up doing pretty well. I would need to look at the standings from last year. Can't look at it here. Look at this man. Oh my goodness. Huge. So in terms of modified no trade clause, like if Seattle is not doing well at the deadline, Jamie Oleksiak, Larson, I'm sure teams will be calling on them just to see, hey, can we get him? And he's just a massive pillar. He's a huge man. So he puts a few goals from time to time, not a ton of points, but I did talk about in a video from last week talking about the defensive needs that we need, and we need to get bigger, stronger, and we also need to get more offensive production from our blue line. So for him, it would be adding that bigger, stronger element. He is a left shot, so on the left side. I think Cap Friendly lists him as a left-right, but he is a left shot. That's the one downside. I would like to get a right shot, but I would take Jamie Oleksiak any day of the week. So let's open his TSN page for time. So like he's been playing almost 20 minutes a game. I don't know if you can read that, but 1950 this year. Last year was 1915. The year before was 1920. Let's call him a 19 to 20 minute a minute player in the regular season. As soon as the playoffs come, it's interesting. So Dallas in 1920, during the regular season, he only played 1549. 1549 in 69 games. In the playoffs, they played him 21 minutes, 21 and a half. Last year, Seattle, they actually made it very far. I think they made it top 8. I would need to double check, but they played 14 games. I think they're in their last series. They made it to Game 7. But he played 21 minutes with 2 different teams in the playoffs. With his size, and I can tell like based on his hits, last year in 75 games, he had 126 hits. In the playoffs, in 14 games, he had 63. So his hitting percentage, like the amount of hits per game, just went up through the roof. Obviously, hits mean that you don't have the puck. So that people don't always love the hit statistic because that means that you don't have the puck if you're hitting somebody. However, for a guy like Oleksiak, with how big he is, like in the regular season, if he just blows on a guy, they fall over, he's probably getting penalties too often because of that. So he's probably had to back off. In the postseason, We just watch it every single year where people just can commit murder and not get penalties. So I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Oleksiak is purposely more physical in the offseason. Obviously, it's a more intense game, but because the whistles are put away. You saw what Gudas was doing against the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Florida States. You saw Bennett, what he was doing. A little criminal, Bennett was. But a lot of block shots, a lot of hits. So the type of defenseman I think would really help us in the playoffs, just huge presence, kind of like a Zdeno Chara type of size. Let's not call him Zdeno Chara because he's a Hall of Famer. But Oleksiak would be really good. 21 minutes tends to be your number 3 defenseman on most teams, and I think he was during that playoff run. I think it was Dunn. It was Larson, number 1 on the right side, Dunn, and then Oleksiak as their number 3. So he kind of goes from like the number 4 spot during the regular season to the number 3 spot during the postseason, just because the game is different. And that's something that we're missing. So I would like to get Oleksiak. Obviously, $4.6 million. I know some people have issues with this contract. He's 30 right now. Looks like he'll be 31 in less than a month. So he'll be 33 by the end of this contract. Which is fine in my mind, to be honest with you, like because of how big he is. You know, we are talking about Zdeno Chara. I just see Oleksiak because he is signed long term. So I made a trade proposal on Cap Friendly earlier today, and it was Oleksiak and a third for a first round pick to Seattle. I have no idea if this is enough. Maybe remove that third and just make it a straight first round pick for Jamie Oleksiak. It's for these type of defensemen who are just massive. It's so hard to value and gauge their price. I would be willing to give up the first round pick. Obviously, if we can squeeze another pick back in this scenario, I like it. But I would like to know what your thoughts are in the description, because I know people think that Jamie Oleksiak has a ton of value, and I know some people who think he's negative value based on his contract and what he brings to the table. But in terms of our D-core, Klingberg is hurt. We'll find out more about that later in the week. I think he's probably out long-term. Robidoux Island, video from last week. Mark Giordano just took a puck to the hand, I believe it was, yesterday. I'm guessing if it's a broken hand, 6 to 8 weeks. That's just a random guess, but if that's the case, we're out with Giordano for a while, and he's been a really good defenseman for us this year and last year, to be honest. I know he gets a lot of flack, but if he's your number 7, that would be amazing. But he's been playing higher up in the lineup than what we would hope he would be, but still a complete warrior. Love Mark Giordano. And the good thing about a hand injury, like I'm a personal trainer, I have a training background. I look at that, I'm like, okay, I can do a lot with that as a trainer. It's like we can work on strengthening his legs. We can make sure that he's game ready. But he can actually like use this as a mini off season, so he could actually come back in better shape than when he went off, because like the hand isn't overly limiting for that type of process. So this could actually be good for him. He can, if he had any other small injuries, they can heal up. He can do like a mid-season like strength block into like a power anaerobic exercise block, and I think he could come back pretty good. And then we have Liljegren, who's also hurt, bad knee injury. I think he's out for a while, so he's going to be out for a while. So with that, we got Morgan Riley, Brody, love that pairing. Oleksiak, McCabe, Benoit, Timmins. I would also see Timmins move up, as an option. And part of what I said is we need more offense from the defense. And like getting a guy like Oleksiak, who is such a defensive defenseman, I would pair him up with a Timmins, give that a shot, and just say, Timmins, just go nuts and see what happens. Just unleash Timmins on the offensive side of things. So maybe getting Oleksiak, we get that defensive size that we need, and then unleashing Timmins at the exact same time and just telling him just go think offense for a little bit and see what happens. Then we could maybe get that scoring from our defense that we have been lacking, like outside of Morgan Riley. So that's something that would be interesting to me. Obviously, getting another left shot, we have quite a few. We have, on the right side, we have Timmins, Liljegren, and let's just pretend John Klingberg doesn't exist. So right now, with this scenario, 21 players, the cap does work. However, once Giordano and Liljegren come back, Lagesson goes down. I think they would be over just a little bit, so they would have to make another move, but it's not too crazy. Maybe a little bit of retention happens here. I'm not too sure, but overall, they could make it work. They could figure it out. Another person gets hurt, and then they're back in the game. So what are you thinking? Video's almost 10 minutes long, so I should wrap this up, but I would love to know your thoughts. I'm going to be posting another video every single day. There's a chance that tomorrow doesn't get a video. If not, then it'll be Friday. But like, subscribe, comment below. I really appreciate everybody here, and thank you so very much. Brian, the Leafs guy, out.